everything just fell perfectly into place for the Toronto Raptors, as the entire goal this season for the Raptors squad was, of course, to develop young guys, but also secure a top draft pick in this year's loaded NBA draft class and build up the stockpile of talent that we, of course, are setting up for the future of this organization. But there were some serious concerns about some of the top guys in the NBA draft actually declaring based on a multitude of factors, based on a multitude of reasons. But now we have some major updates, some major reports, especially a guy that's been mocked to this team for a very long time, actually confirmed in the NBA draft and making this Toronto Raptors draft pick that we currently have even much more valuable. So we'll break down what the reports are, what it means to the Toronto Raptors going this year's NBA draft, and why I am pumped up for this year's draft. But lots of stuff to break down. But before we dive into that, folks, again, if you're a part of the 54% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, we're getting an influx of new viewers. People are excited for the Raptors offseason. I appreciate all the new people that are tuned in. Make sure you guys hit that sub button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team. But let's dive into it, because there's a guy that a lot of Raptors fans, I'm sure, are familiar with here right now. His name is Maluach, and he is a player that, given his position, given his connection to Masai Ujiri, even before he was at Duke, he was a long time connected to the Toronto Raptors as a piece that would be on Masai Ujiri's radar. But there have been some concerning updates regards to his future in the NBA, his ability to declare for the draft, and just a lot of stuff in general with Maluach, basically due to some of the politics going on with South Sudan as well as the United States. So basically, we're getting into the news here, folks. Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, came out and said that I am taking actions to revoke all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders and restrict any further issuance to prevent entry into the United States, effective immediately, due to the failure of South Sudan's transitional government to accept the return of its repatriated citizens in a timely manner. So, not to dive into a bunch of stuff regarding, world politics and stuff, but South Sudan is currently in a civil war right now. The Dinka as well as the Nuer. There's a couple tribes that have just been in decades of conflict. One of my best friends is from South Sudan, so I'm actually pretty well read on this subject. But our guy, Maluach, a guy that's been linked to the Toronto Raptors for a very long time, he is from South Sudan and now is facing a weird conundrum in terms of how this is going to affect his future in the United States, with this team and ability to travel and all that. And basically, Duke came out and dropped a statement themselves, talked about how Duke University is aware of the announcement from some of the Department of State regarding visa holders from South Sudan. We are looking into the situation and working to understand any implications for our Duke students. So there wasn't anything clear going on, but in terms of the government, Maluach would fall under this category of someone that's getting kicked out, getting sent away from the United States. And this was a major, everyone has the association, like, hey, NBA guys, they come in, the NBA can use its muscle, use its bargaining power, and just get people these visas. It's a very unprecedented situation, it feels like, in regards to everything that's happening with, immigration stuff out there in the United States. But there was some serious concern about Maluach's ability to actually get drafted and get picked up out there in the NBA draft. And that would suck for the Toronto Raptors, who have been, there's worries about Cooper Flagg, who we discussed. He's officially declared for the NBA draft. But, the Raptors are mocked to essentially get Maluach a bunch in these draft scenarios. As you can see, I pulled up a couple mock drafts here. Basically, Tankathon has us directly landing Maluach out there in, with the 7th overall selection. Again, that's where we're projected to land, 7th, 8th spot. We could pop into 1st, and then things would completely change. This wouldn't matter at all. But, we're mocked directly for Maluach there. Bleacher Report came out and basically listed us. I believe this is a Bleacher Report. Maluach 7 mocked to the Toronto Raptors again. NBADraft.net had, I think they're factoring in this scenario and the concerns about, the visa implications and things. They had him down to 23rd overall in their mock draft. So that is pretty crazy, pretty wild in regards to stuff there. But news came out today that, Kevin Maluach, the Duke Blue Devil, came out and announced his decision to, go into the NBA draft. Now, this has some interesting implications for the Toronto Raptors regardless, even though the fact that he did enter the draft. Because, of course, we know that he's a 7'2", 250. We've seen him play for Duke for a ton. He was out there in the tournaments, and he put up some solid stats. 8 points per game. He shot some three-pointers, shot 71% of the field, 1.3 blocks, and out there 6.6 rebounds at 21 minutes per night. So he is a very effective big man. He's a development piece. He's one of those guys that, you're taking for high upside draft pick out there in the NBA draft. But the one concern now, definitely with all these issues going on, and we know Masai Ujiri, they love, to get their hands on a lot of these players and see them in-house, put them through workouts to get a feel for the basketball player they are, especially these young development pieces, getting a feel for their personality, how they are, their work ethic, their training. And if he's not able to come to Toronto for one of these workouts, they'd probably have to work out something weird. I'm sure Masai Ujiri is not going to spend one of the most crucial draft picks, probably the last draft pick in our current rebuild, on a guy that they don't get to see, in person, get a lot of interaction with. So maybe Masai would have to travel. I'm sure there's some ways around him, if he has to stay in the United States, if he gets kicked out or whatever the heck is going on. If he's sent back to South Sudan for a stretch of time. But basically, it makes the process, it makes a few more hoops you have to jump through in regards to drafting a guy in Maluach. And this also has an effect in terms of the decisions the Raptors are going to make, because there's another center position. We know the Raptors are intrigued by the centers in this NBA draft. Masai Ujiri said in the season-ending presser that I don't see anything that I think it's unique in terms of who they're drafting, but it's almost the same, being that sorry, we got the wrong quote here. I pulled this wrong quote up. Essentially, Masai Ujiri's season-ending press conference came out and directly said that they understand a young big man is something, it's a position of need for the Toronto Raptors. They're going to draft the best player available. They're going to draft the most talented guy available, but they understand that drafting a young big man that has some high upside is a crucial part of this. Now, of course, you do have a guy in your wings in Ulrich Shamshay, who in the G League this year put up some solid stats: 8 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks per night in 24 minutes per game. So Shamshay is a young developing big, so it's not necessarily a direct, hey, if you don't select a center, in that range, if you don't get a Cooper Flag, then you're just crazy. But it is a position of need for the Toronto Raptors. So that is one thing to factor in. And, we do have a Colin Castleton, who we just signed to a multi-year contract. Of course, Jakob Poeltl is going to be the starting center for this team, assuming no blockbuster trades end up happening in the coming weeks. So the Raptors have been linked to a ton of different guys. And I'll say this here right now. I'm sure a lot of the people that commenting aren't watching this far into the video, but I don't make up the reports. I just see the odds, I see stuff, and I convey the information. The Raptors have been linked to a ton of guys out there on the trade market in regards to, moves happening, and I give you it all. The latest bit of updates on the Toronto Raptors. So it's, we're covering it. I'm not coming out and saying Damian Lillard's guaranteed coming here. I'm not making up sources or anything like that. Just breaking down the odds that have come out there in these videos. So standing on that there at the end of this vid here now at this point. But basically, with Kamau Maluach, right, in this point, the Raptors' interest in a big man, it does lead to maybe the Raptors moving into a different direction with their draft pick if there are more hurdles to jump through. And that could be drafting a guy like Derek Queen, who is a guy that's mocked to go around the same point as, Maluach. You see, Derek Queen's mocked to go 9th by the NBA Tankathon, way higher. He's projected to go 10th out there by NBA Draft.net. And then he's actually projected to go ahead of Maluach at 6th in this report from Bleacher Report. So it's an interesting piece. Another center, another big man. He's 6'10", so 4 inches shorter than Maluach, but he's a guy that put up some stronger stats, again, for a very different team in Maryland versus Duke, but 17 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.1 blocks per night, 1.1 steals, and again, all these guys have shown some potential out there as three-point shooters, but I wouldn't declare them as the most knockdown guys, but definitely it's another name and another wrench that's thrown into the situation, especially if this visa issues affects Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster's ability to actually scout him, ability to meet him, interact with him, and things out there on that front. So we'll keep you up to date on all of the latest developments on the NBA draft, because, of course, this is a crucial NBA draft for the Toronto Raptors. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.